YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back. After the first big wave of undrafted free agency, I'm going to break down the top 15 signings so far. Some really talented players made it through the draft into undrafted free agency, and I think a lot of these players have a good chance to not only make their team, but actually make an impact too. These are some really good players. So we're going to go from 15 to 1 just in a second here. Please subscribe to both of our channels, trying to get to 50K, the GOAT House and the GOAT House Plus, and please follow our Twitter. It's a must follow for extra NFL draft content, constantly talking football there. There's a link in the description and the comments, every single video, for any of those links that you need there to support us and follow us elsewhere. Number 15 out of the top 15 undrafted free agency signings of 2020. Going to go with Bryce Huff from Memphis. You know, this guy's got the production, he's got the athletic traits, and he kind of just slipped through because the length, I suppose. But for the Jets, I think he's a really good fit for the Jets. They're 3-4 defense. They need more pass rushers. You know, it's a good defense, pretty built in the safety, inside linebacker, D-line departments. Just need more pass rush help, and this actual draft class wasn't too deep, but I thought Bryce Huff was kind of one of the sleepers down there, and he made it through the draft without getting drafted. The Jets add him. So since they're just looking for, you know, more pass rush help, he has a chance to definitely compete for a spot there on the roster and possibly make an impact. Kind of a guy that just gets the job done. He's going to get to the quarterback, be productive. For number 14 is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting Michael Divinity. Some list him as a linebacker, some as a pass rusher. I like him as a pass rusher in a 3-4. Didn't get to see a whole bunch from him this year. Last year we did, when he was alongside Devin White, who was the Buccaneers pick last year, big-time linebacker for them. So he kind of joins his teammate there. I like the upside of him, you know, at the pass rush position. These LSU players are all really good. They're all there for a reason. Like the upside. I can't judge too much off of this year. So I do like him. In the Bucs, yeah, they got a really good duo in their pass rush group there with Shaq Barrett and JPP. They needed depth. They needed to go in the draft and get their starters. They needed to take that next step to being a top-tier contender, but they needed depth at the pass rush position next, and they're going to get it here with a pretty good undrafted free agent, Michael Divinity from LSU. Number 13 is going to be the Chiefs getting YASIR Durant from Missouri. Why I like Durant is he played tackle, and he played pretty well. You know, didn't give up a whole lot of pressures, very few actually, so protected his quarterback playing tackle. So we know he can play tackle at a pretty solid level. He's kind of built as a guard, though. You kind of view him as a guard, you know, how he's built and the run blocking ability. So in the NFL, projected to move to guard, but the flexibility, the versatility, to be able to play tackle, guard, exactly what the Chiefs need. The Chiefs have a very good offensive line when they're healthy. Injuries during the regular season and the depth was a concern. It's probably a reason, Mahomes got hurt, probably a reason they lost, a couple games in there, maybe why they didn't get the 1 seed. So having this guy as a depth guy that we know can play tackle, but you see the upside as a guard for a potential future starter, that's fantastic. So a guy that I definitely thought should have got drafted, the first two guys we listed, I like the upside of them, like the fits where they went, but, you kind of have an idea there's a chance they can go undrafted. YASIR Durant, really thought he would get drafted here because the flexibility and how well he played. So number 13 for the Chiefs. Number 12 is going to be a Chiefs player again, a Chiefs signing again. Javaris Davis, the corner. It's going to be a nickel corner from Auburn. That's where he played at Auburn, and that's where he'll be good at in the NFL as well. And I thought as a slot corner, being probably one of the better ones, in the day 3 for the slot corners. So, and probably, on the earlier side of day 3, especially factoring in, how he played, and the athleticism is, I guess eye-popping too. Runs 4.3s. It shows on the field. Pretty feisty slot corner. So the Chiefs definitely needed to add another one in there for sure. Potential to play early on, I think, too. Losing a guy like Kendall Fuller who kind of played there. I know they have Tyrann Mathieu, kind of a do-it-all guy, but having this extra guy in here, so if you can put him in, Mathieu can go where he pleases, or you can put him in a different spot because we know he's a safety corner, slot corner, does it all. So it's good to have a guy like this, and he's talented. I thought he would go in the 5th. Wouldn't have shocked me if he somehow made it to early 7th, but being undrafted and the Chiefs picking him up, freak athlete, pretty big time there. So we saw the Chiefs twice in a row there. Now we're going back to the Buccaneers. We saw the Buccaneers already. We're going back. Parnell Motley of Oklahoma. I thought he would get drafted. It's a really good career from the Oklahoma corner here. It's felt like he was there forever. If you just watching a lot of college football, and just every time Oklahoma's in a big game, prime time, it just sound like Motley is always coming up big for them the last several years. The defense has been the weaker spot of the Oklahoma very talented team, top tier team, but it's felt like Motley was always the one that just made the big play, was the one that stepped up, and we saw him hold his own against Denzel Mims. Mims actually played pretty well against him, and then the Buccaneers get him here. They already got a good group of young corners, but throw him in the mix, definitely good enough to make the team. Maybe his body type says slot corner. I think he can be a pretty good slot corner, but he's played well enough against high-powered Big 12 offenses to play, to stick where he's been playing on the outside. So we'll see. Pretty good pickup there. I thought he would get drafted 6th round at the latest, but makes it to undrafted. Number 10, give me Calvin Throckmorton. Guard from Oregon, actually played some tackle. Well, we've seen him throughout his career play some reps at tackle, play some reps at guard, even center. So he's a do-it-all guy. I really like him at guard. He's built like a guard. He's got the strength like the guard. This maybe reason it's not higher is because, limited chances here because the Saints are pretty built. We see them even draft Cesar Ruiz in the 1st round. But Throckmorton's a really good player. Thought he was a 5th round talent. So this makes it into the top 10, and he should make the team. It's hard to believe he'll play early on because how good the Saints' offensive line is, and they added Ruiz. But it's just a big-time player that should have been drafted. So, and you just like that you can move him around. If you really need a tackle and you're down some tackles, you can throw him in there. You can kind of trust him. So that's the good thing there. Number 9 is going to be Lamar Jackson from Nebraska. Not Lamar Jackson already in the NFL. The cornerback from Nebraska. Good size, athleticism. It's a good combination, rare combination, and he played very well. They're really one of the only bright spots in the secondary for Nebraska. And the Jets, like we talked about the Jets, they already came up on this list. Pretty much pass rush and cornerback away from being a really, really good defense. So they just kind of get those guys in there to compete, find the right one. And you got a guy that could have went in the 5th round, in my opinion. So it's a good pickup here. He definitely has a chance to not only make the team but play very early on. So that's a number 9 here for the Jets on the undrafted free agency signing list. Number 8, it's going to be J.R. Reed. It's another DB. This one from Georgia goes to the Jags. The Jags, okay at safety, definitely a spot where they can get better. So they had J.R. Reed, who was very solid for Georgia for some time now. What I like about him is he's really always flying to the ball. Pretty good instincts, pretty good reactions flying to the ball. Pretty good free safety. People raise it, maybe not a good enough playmaker. I'm going to kind of knock that critique on him. Maybe just didn't get his hands in the ball as many times as some people would like. But, go back and look at the Notre Dame game. I feel like he had that clinching, crazy interception, instinctive at the same time of flying the ball and at the same time of making a crazy play. That just doesn't just a play like that, the sequences that happen doesn't really come up fluke-wise. So that's why I would kind of knock that, that knock on him, I suppose. So it's a good safety. Probably should have been drafted 5th round. Wouldn't have shocked me if he went to the 6th. Was there some medical concerns? That's what some people are talking about. But the Jags got a guy that could potentially step up for them there. So number 8 on the list. Now we're on to number 7. It's going to be QUARTNEY Davis, who the Vikings pick up, the receiver from Texas A&M. Definitely thought he would be drafted too. Kind of feels like those new school slot receivers, pretty productive from the slot, but also can play outside. Pretty good release at the line and pretty solid route runner. I thought maybe a little more from those Texas A&M receivers this year. Was a little hyped, but Kellen Mond kind of took a step down, it felt like, so that was a little disappointing. But very solid receiver I thought would get drafted for sure. And, you look at the Vikings, they drafted 2 receivers, and this is their 3rd receiver they pick up. They drafted 2, but I actually like him, a little better than Osborn, perhaps, that they drafted, but Osborn's been used in multiple different ways. And then, really, you break it down based on my grades. I'm not saying my grades are going to be exactly right when it comes to actually playing in the NFL games and how they're ordered, but Davis, to me, could be, it wouldn't be a complete shocker, again, not saying it's going to happen, but be their 3rd best receiver on their entire better roster after Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. A guy like Bissy Johnson was impressive for a 7th-round pick, very impressive for, I guess, a 7th-round pick last year. But you look at, this, the grades really for me. You just look at this receiver class as well. Davis a little higher grade, and then Osborne can be that sneaky pick for them, but also a special teamer. But Davis was a pretty damn good undrafted signing here. Another receiver here, Tristan Jackson from Syracuse, goes to the Rams. Really smooth receiver, and he's pretty lengthy as well. Good route runner, good hands, big play ability downfield. Sneaky productive. People don't talk about his production at CUSE. It was pretty good, I'd say, definitely on the good side, and thought he would get drafted for sure. I thought, the latest he would leak to was 6 rounds. So maybe I can see the concern, though. Maybe the concern was against maybe strength, against the physical corners in the NFL. A little different, but he's good enough, smooth enough. That's what I think of when I think of Tristan Jackson, in his game. He's pretty good after the catch as well. So that's a big pickup for the Rams. They lost Brandon Cooks. I know they added Van Jefferson, but it's a high-powered offense where the receiver will be very important, obviously. So having multiple receiver sets very important. So adding another guy that can play, definitely impressive here. Now we're on to the big top 5 here. Number 5 is going to be AJ Green. List him at DB from Oklahoma State. He was a corner, and he played corner pretty well, and the Browns picked him up, by the way. So that's number 5 here, big time. And I heard they paid him a lot of money, but that's A-okay with me. But the reason I list him as DB, very good corner, played corner at pretty high level in the Big 12. He goes to the combine, runs a slow 40, and I'm guessing that's why he slid down. But I get this, I haven't heard this, but I feel safety. When I watch him play, you look at his build, maybe because he doesn't have the long speed for corner too, that kind of adds into it. And you see where he's best. You see when the ball, the play, I should say, is in front of him, good at coming up, being physical, making a break on the ball, even though he isn't super fast. For a big guy, he's like more quick than fast, which is kind of rare actually, but it's unique in this way. So I almost like him as a strong safety. Could he play in the box? I guess that's a little more of a question, but this is kind of what I get from watching AJ Green and looking at AJ Green too. But worst, I don't want to say worst case scenario. I think of the other scenarios, he's a pretty solid corner that the Browns picked up that probably should get drafted. It's a little bit of a risk for me when putting the grades, but I did grade him as a safety. I just get this feeling, and I thought, he could go in terms of my grade, at safety, could go as high as round 4 because the lack of other good safeties in this class. And just the upside there, it's a feeling. I didn't really expect him to go there, but that's just kind of how I viewed things. So it's a pretty good pickup for the Browns, but I guess it's kind of a wait-and-see thing what happens. Like everybody, but this is kind of more of those because see where he plays, how it works out on top of that. Number 4 is going to be Anthony Gordon, the quarterback that we all thought would get drafted maybe 6th round, the very, very latest, feeling 5th round maybe. Quarterback from Washington State, goes to the Seahawks. I like the fit here. I almost gave kind of bonus points for guys that I felt were going to really make the team, and more than that, make more of an impact. And this is really not one of those. I think he'll definitely make the team, but obviously behind Russell Wilson. But I just really like the fit there. It's a quarterback, so maybe get some bonus points for the quarterbacks, but especially that wasn't supposed to slip through. But having him behind Russell Wilson, he's best making that big play when you least expect the big play. Throwing on the run. We're seeing some no-look passes from him this year. Put up some big-time games, big-time yards. So, and he's pretty accurate too, pretty mobile. So surprising he didn't get drafted, but I can tell why maybe what happened here. Maybe a little bit undersized. Definitely not for me. I've never been one of those guys that were like, yeah, this guy's too small to ball, So that's not for me. But mainly you look at, for the most part, there's a couple things. Well, first thing, Mike Leach's offense always been very, just it's a system quarterback feeling. Really scheme based, a lot of schemed underneath quick throws. They're throwing real quick 5-yard plays. So maybe easy for the quarterback. You could say he's had some big plays, but then you look at early in the year, most of the year, his big games, he looked like his strength was pocket presence. He's really good at when he's got to step up, really good at when he's going to move out and throw on the run, just knowing when kind of feeling the pressure. That was his strength. We get to kind of the bigger games, and we get to even the bowl game at the end. That was kind of his worst trait. So that kind of scares team. It's almost like we don't have enough tape on him. That's kind of what it feels like. And, Gardner Minshew was there before as well, so we didn't get to see a whole bunch of Anthony Gordon. So that's kind of what the feeling was for me, too. But I've seen enough that, where you kind of could really know he's better than a lot of quarterbacks got drafted, but that you can take a risk, too, for a pretty good backup quarterback. But the Seahawks get that. And I really like him behind Russell Wilson. So that comes at number 4. We're in the top 3. There is a clear top 2 in my opinion. But number 3 is a pretty big one, too, that I like, and it's BENITO Jones going to the Dolphins, the nose tackle. Thought this guy could actually go as high as 4th round. Kind of figured maybe 5th is likely. But the shortage on nose tackles, and the shortage on nose tackles that can move pretty well, too, makes it confusing on why he didn't get drafted. The Dolphins could use a nose tackle in there, too. They definitely need a guy to compete for that spot, and that's what BENITO Jones is. I think not only is he going to make the team, I expect this guy to be playing. I expect this guy to be playing for them. Maybe not every down. That's kind of what the nose tackle situation is, why they fall. But we've seen maybe the best one in the class, true nose tackle Neville Gallimore, fall down to the 3rd round. So we see the nose tackles fall. But an impact player, I thought he was better than some of the nose tackles that got drafted. So that's a really good pick for the Dolphins, and kind of boost him up the list a little bit too. Because, well, I guess I didn't really need to boost him because I thought he could have got drafted in the 4th, so he's in the right spot here. But it also helps that I think he'll play for them, But you never know with these undrafted guys. But top 2 is pretty clear. Number 2 is going to be Thaddeus Moss, the tight end from the LSU. The national champions, and he had a big game then. He had some big moments leading up to that game. 0 drops on the year, sure hands, made some spectacular catches, can play in line, good receiving, ability downfield. You see him at NC State, can't do much. He goes to LSU, and just like that, he improves that much. Maybe some people are thinking, he needed LSU to be good. They made him look good. I just see major improvements in a different person, really. So it is shocking that he did not get picked. Absolutely shocking. Really a do-it-all tight end, and he's a lot better than a lot of the tight ends. I think it's pretty clear too that a lot of tight ends that got drafted, it's surprising. Randy Moss's kid on top of all that. That doesn't. You got to be able to play, but just to factor that in on top of everything, shocking. Wondering if there's something we're missing here. Was there some secret injury? We always find that out later for some of these guys or some of we know now, but surprising. On top of that, for the Redskins here, thought they could be in the tight end market. A guy like Thaddeus Moss, and it would have been a good pick if they took him. Maybe if they took him in, maybe not with that early 3rd round pick, but early day 3. This would have been a good pick for the Redskins. So I think that we're talking on Twitter with everybody throughout this whole draft, and there were some Redskins fans that wanted their Redskins to take Moss, in this next round. No, we'll take him this next round. Can we get him this next round? And they get him undrafted. So this is huge. I definitely expect this guy to make the team. Definitely expect him to make the team. And he should be an impact. This is an impact player here. Was an impact player at the highest stage. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. So number 2 is the Redskins signing of Thaddeus Moss, a tight end. Number 1 is a tight end as well, Hunter Bryant. And this one came out that some teams kind of failed him medically. I don't know the exact info. What's surprising is he played pretty well this year. He was at the combine looking like in the best shape of his life, looked perfectly fine. Didn't hear anything about this. Hunter Bryant is an absolute beast. So we're talking about this tight end group, this entire tight end group. Which guy has the best maybe receiving ability downfield, kind of the big play, home run ability downfield? It's Hunter Bryant. You throw in that he can do that from the slot almost like a receiver because he has the athletic ability. But what's underrated is that he played in line quite a bit, and he has the strength to play in line, and he can block. He blocked pretty well. He blocked more. He blocked better than some guys that bigger body guys that you expected would be better. But all-around tight end with the big playability. So he drops because of the injury. Maybe it's more concerning than some think. I don't see how that can be. I think teams overreact from it. I think he went undrafted not just because of the injury. I think he went undrafted because of the injury and the quarantine. So this was a gift for the Detroit Lions. This is a major win in undrafted free agency. Thaddeus Moss ain't far behind, but this one is ridiculous. An undrafted free agent you don't see every day. You pair him with T.J. Hawkinson, it's going to be real scary. It's a scary duo. They got a scary duo. One of them's a first-round pick, and one of them's an undrafted guy. And, there is a difference between the two, but, you would think it would be a lot more of a difference So this was big time. This is big time for the Lions right here. You know, this guy's gonna make the team. He's gonna make an impact. You know, if it's crazy. It's surprising. You know, I think the quarantine did it because the injury really wasn't a concern until I guess you can't. Something late must have popped up. Something late must have popped up, and everyone panicked, and they can't. That happens every draft, but they really couldn't check anything out because the quarantine. So I really think if they had the injury and it was a concern, and everyone checked them out, and they still thought the injury was a concern, I still think he would have got drafted because it was a panic and there was not much info. That's why he went undrafted. So we're going to find out more about that. I'm looking if there's more injuries than that, what they are specifically. So I'm pretty confused on those. Hunter Bryant's a hell of a football player. Thaddeus Small, a lot of these guys. And there's a lot of other ones that were really good. We're talking on Twitter about them. I gave props to some teams on some undrafted free agent signings. Even ones that we expected guys to go undrafted, you still like them because you like these guys as potential sleepers. They got upside in the future. You understand why they didn't get drafted, but they got upside. Could fit here, could fit there. There's a lot of those, so we'll be talking about those. More undrafted free agency signings will happen. Last year I made a video a few days, down the line here. In the next week it'll be the best one for each team, or the best one that has the best chance to make the team. So maybe we can go back to that. We can look at that again, but for this year we can do it again. So that'll be pretty interesting. But a lot of different grade videos, ranking videos, best players from each draft class, each team's draft class, all kinds of videos like that will be coming the next week, and it'll probably take more than that. So a lot to get to still, even though the draft's ended. It's a good time of the year here for the NFL, for the Goat House here. So please subscribe to both of our channels. Follow us on Twitter. It's a must follow over there if you're a Goat House fan or a football fan. Link down below for anything you need. Thank you, everyone, for your support. Thank you for watching. That's going to do it. Goodbye.